Sin is any time it's a cheap alternative to the real thing. When people chase after gold instead of God. I don't know about you, but this is a week where I have struggled to find words to say. And when I say something to say, I mean something helpful. And there are so many people saying so many things, and I don't know, I've just found so little of it to be of any value or worth. Most are shouting from a foxhole and just adding fuel to the fire, and I really don't want to say anything unless I think it was A, helpful, and B, deeply Christian. It could be they'll fail utterly this morning, and that's always possible. But I think some words are needed. I'm going to be in a couple different places. I'm going to start off in Romans chapter 5, and Paul writing here to Rome, and he says, therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, in this way death came to everyone because everyone sinned. For the law was given, before the law was given, sin was in the world, but sin is not taken into account when there is no law. But nevertheless, death reigned from the time of Adam to the time of Moses, even over those who did not sin by breaking a command, as did Adam, who was a pattern of the thing to come. I'll just stop here. This has been a week where we have been confronted, actually the past 2 weeks, with the idea that sin is definitely in the world because we see death. Sorry, a little ant is crawling around my Bible. That's never happened before. We have seen things we probably shouldn't see. Officers sworn to protect. An officer sworn to protect utterly fails and does the opposite. We haven't just seen one case. We've seen another one this week. And for one of the only times in my life, and I really do mean one of the only times in my life, there was a united, kind of everybody was on the same page response. And I thought, I think we can maybe move forward from here. And I wondered what would have happened if we'd have just stopped and maybe confessed, expressed grief, dismay. But more death, I guess, had to follow. We've seen shop owners beaten. We've seen businesses up in smoke. We've seen fire bombings, and the list is long. Family businesses ruined. And by the way, sometimes you see people post unfortunate things like, you're talking about lives versus the economy. The economy is people's lives. Things that they work for their entire life, invested everything, hours, money, savings. This is just one of those weeks. I haven't had any desire really to say anything. All the air seems to be out of the room. Have you noticed? It's just kind of an exhale, and we're just kind of wandering around, not sure exactly what to say. Sometimes you just shake your head. I almost sent an emerge on Friday, almost. I had it written and then decided not to. Decided just to stay quiet. So right now, we're at a great time where we're trying to find fault with everybody. This is one of the great finger-pointing times of culture. Where do I point the finger of blame? Here's good news. Ready for the good news? I can point in almost any direction and find a guilty party. It doesn't matter which way I point. However, everything to be valuable has to start with me. And as a junior high coach used to tell me, whenever you point a finger, you got at least 3 of them pointing back at yourself. Truth be told, we've all missed the mark. The word Paul uses here for sin is in the world is an archer who has his arrow and shot it, but just missed the target. The intended aim was not hit. Really, the problem is when we think of sin, all of us, we think of something that we did, some action on a sheet. And when we did the sheet, well, there it is. We broke the rule, therefore it's a sin, and we got to be sorry for it because we did something that's on the sheet, and that's really not what's in view here. Sin is not as much breaking a rule as it is a failure to be fully human, as expressed in all of us who are created in God's image. Sin is always, in every instance, a cheap alternative to the real thing. How many of you have ever bought something and thought you were getting the real thing? See, when I was growing up, I looked at all the kids with Levi's. And then I looked down at my Sears Tough Skins jeans. And it came with the patches ready to iron on when you got a hole in your knees. And I found out how easy it was to get a hole in your knees. All you had to do is kind of dive on a gym floor, because they were not made out of any material known by humanity. They were kind of a very cheap polyester, and when you would go on the ground, the heat, the friction of skidding across a gym floor would burn a hole in your Tough Skins jeans. And then Mom had to iron the patch from the inside, and the corners would curl up and scrape up your knees. I wanted Keds shoes. Remember Keds? I wanted those shoes. I didn't get those shoes. I got Kebs from a little store called Twin Fair. And then Nike came out. I would have liked some Nikes. I got Nickies. I always got the cheap knockoff. The one that didn't quite work as you think it should. We were talking last week. We were having a conversation here about sunglasses. And someone looked at me and said, "What kind of sunglasses are those?" My wife hates these, by the way, because it's reflective and purple. She says I look like a bug, so I'm sorry about that. And I said, "I have no idea what these are. These are $20 at Walgreens." And I took them off, and they're Foster Grants. And I said, I've never had a pair of like Ray-Bans or nice sunglasses. And they told the story about, I did once. I got Ray-Bans once. I was in college or out of college, and I got Ray-Bans. And I said, "What happened to them?" He goes, "I don't know. I sat on them, or they fell out of the car, and I had them for 3 weeks. And ever since then, I've got the $20 Walgreens too." We see flaws sometimes on the internet. We think we order a name brand and we get an off brand, and it takes a little bit to find out. Sin is any time it's a cheap alternative to the real thing. When people chase after gold instead of God. When people elevate sex in place of intimacy and love and closeness and commitment. This week, posting a hashtag instead of real involvement in the lives of other people. But posting a hashtag is easier and it makes you feel better. Look what I did. I'm involved. I did something. No, you didn't. Not at all. When we follow what is not meant to be followed, we always end up weaker. We always end up bitter. We always end up further away from God. When we use others just to increase ourselves. When we use situations to advance our own power, that's always a problem. And I think we've seen that this week. People seizing on an opportunity to just use it to advance their own political standing. For those who wish to deny there is a God, and those who also wish to deny that there's an active power of evil at work, I give you this week as evidence. Because it's everywhere. I don't know if this is good news or bad news, but it seems like I probably should share it anyway. We have seen government before use its coercive power to hold down others and kill. We've also seen times in our history when we've seen mobs come together to use power to destroy and kill. There's been times before we've seen people beaten in the streets, maybe even innocent people. We've seen government join in that effort. And in response, we've seen mobs kill dozens. And can I affirm that both are dangerous? And we have a story in the Bible about just that thing happening, about government getting together with a mob and people ended up being dead. We should not forget that Jesus experienced both of those. And a coercive power of government and mobs combined together to yell, "Crucify him." So we've been here before. In fact, our story starts in a week, much like the past 2 weeks have been. And can I say, there's no one to like this week when I turn on the TV or when I listen to the news. And the question I always have is, why doesn't God just stop all of this? Just sprinkle pixie dust or wave his hand and stop all of it. My same question is, why didn't God do the same thing and stop it 2,000 years ago when he had the chance? There's something about what happened 2,000 years ago I don't think we think about. It's almost that when I said God sent his son, there's a part of that that sounds really easy. And it's kind of bad theology. God sent his son, but God came himself. God offered up his own life. And it's almost, he tried to lure sin and evil out into the open. It was almost like he was bait. Here I am. I'm right here. I'm looking at you, Caesar. I'm right here. I'm looking at you, mobs led by Jewish leaders who had a point and were trying to enrich themselves and increase their own power. What are you going to do about it? And what they did about it is they said, I tell you what we'll do about it. We'll combine forces and we'll end your existence and we'll end your life. And so it's like all the coercive power, the power of government unrestrained, the power of the mobs, the power of the law used incorrectly, all of that combined together, used to kill Jesus. There, it's done. We have proven once again that the mob is more powerful. We've proven once again that the government has ultimate authority. We've proven again, and we combined forces, and we've shown you, God, who's boss. Until 3 days later, he rose again to create a new life. And we meet on Sunday morning in celebration of that new life. Remember, out of those mobs and out of that government power 2,000 years ago rose new life. But it wasn't because of anything the mob did. And it wasn't because of anything the government did. It's because the new life that God gives. So my question this morning, it's to us. Why are we so collectively so eager as a culture to crawl, and I use the word crawl because I think it's the right word, to crawl back into this old way of living? We live in a world that is desperately trying to pull people into camps. The media definitely is trying to pull you into a camp. The leaders, of course, are trying to pull you into camp. They're trying to get you a little bit scared, a little bit off center, worried about them. Because as long as there's this scary them, you need the leaders because they promise they're going to protect you. They're partially creating all of this. And the leaders just take advantage because they'll use any situation they can get to take advantage, to feel like that they're needed. Politics, absolutely. It is hard to not carry the weight of everything out there back to the church. And we cannot carry the weight and bring the weight of everything out there into the church. And by the way, the church is not bounded by this building or this property. It's wherever we are out into the world. Somehow we are to model this new family. We're to be an example to everything that exists out there. And this is a week where a lot of people are resorting to defensiveness. And I want us to maybe not be defensive and not be so quick to react. This was a week where I had a lot of conversations with some people. And I asked them about some things. And let me just share what they told me. These are people who I respect a lot. I've been friends with for a long time. And I've talked to them about, listen, I want you to just talk to me, and I just want to listen. And here's a couple things that came out. One person said, look, everybody is always, and I'm not talking about anybody connected to here. I'm not talking about I'm just talking about generally in culture. He goes, look, when I go to work, when I do my normal life, no one ever has really rude to me or says the wrong words to me. But he said, once I'm in the group for a while, and once I become friends, the guard gets let down. And when the guard gets let down, he goes, I'll just share something that happened a couple weeks ago. I was at work, and someone was talking about the house, and they got brand new neighbors. And the brand new neighbors moved in and seemed nice enough. And it turned out that they were Jewish. And he goes, the person works, I guess Jewish neighbors aren't so bad. At least they're not, and caught themselves. And looked at and he goes, no, not you. Not talking about you. Talking about them. How quick we are to make other people them in unknowing ways. We in the church must never make anybody a them. And it's easy to do. The things we would never even dream about to people in front of us, when it's a nameless them, that's kind of when the issue starts to arise. I think this is a time, I think, for us to collectively mourn and to be very, very, very aware that there's never a them. Galatians chapter 3. Sorry, the wind is blowing the pages around a little bit. Galatians 3 says, for in Christ there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female. The issue then, Scripture is not telling us that we lose all our distinctions. And by the way, there have been people down through times that have acted like that they've all dressed in the same clothes and got the same color haircut because the Bible says there's neither male nor female. So they've all tried to dress like this androgynous blob where you can't tell one from another. We've seen that in our own culture. Communist China is the one that springs to mind, where they tried to erase all those distinctions. Everybody dressed the same way purposefully. That's not what Paul's saying. Paul's not saying that there's no such thing as male and no such thing as female. He's not saying there's no such thing as this ethnicity and that ethnicity. I was just thinking this week, because I was engaged in a conversation, and I was thinking about myself. And I'll be honest, my wife and I own a minivan. And if you dig into her minivan, you'll see some CDs there. And now she has a cell phone. We figured out how to make the Bluetooth, what's in the phone, come out through the speakers. And when my wife's in the car, it's a parade of Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey, that era, big band. If you look in my car, you won't find big band stuff. You'll find some Journey, some Styx, some Stevie Ray Vaughan, some Rush. That might not mean anything to anybody. You go in certain places, my office, some rooms in my house. I have pictures on the wall of some golf courses that I've played. Why am I saying all this? It's quite possible that I'm the whitest man in America. I hit all the stereotypes. Every last one of them. Every last one. The Bible is not denying any of that's true. It's denying that that status counts for anything at all. There should be no them. So I think if we're to create and we're to model this new family, all the things that divide us out in the world should not even divide us here. So maybe one of the things that we have to do is purposefully walk across some bridges this week. Purposefully try to make other people feel comfortable. Purposefully stay out of some discussions and some arguments. Purposefully start acting like family. Now, when we say family, we get this Norman Rockwell image in our mind. Everybody harmonious around a dinner table where dad with the tie on is smiling. He's about to carve the turkey. That's not the family I'm talking about. I'm talking about the family with crazy Uncle Larry sitting in his normal seat. And you know that Grandma's there too. And at 68.4 degrees, the house is way too cold, and Grandma has to let everybody know, but at 68.6, it's blazing hot. And she's got to talk about that. There's that little 0.2 degree comfort level. She's at the table. The kids are whining. How long do we have to wait? Where's the food? In a normal family, there's a lot of looking past a lot of things about certain people in the family. There's even that one person in the family, and you know who it is. It's the person in the family that's been a little estranged for a while. They maybe even haven't been too kind to everyone. And you know how it is. Everybody's a little mad when they don't show up for family events. But when they do show up for family events, everybody's on edge. And maybe they haven't been around for 3 or 4 years. And you know, when they come, everybody's on their best behavior to try to warmly embrace them and make them feel welcome and make them feel comfortable in the hope of reestablishing some things. The way we are in that kind of family situation, maybe we need to be to everybody else in our world. The person at the grocery store, the person at work. I would like to think in this world of walls where we've all retreated, and everybody's retreated back behind their wall the last couple weeks. Again. Pop their heads up just long enough to get a quick glance and fire off a social media thing mad at them. Maybe we can be people in this very important time to just build bridges. Because there's nothing out there, there's no status out there that counts for anything here at all. I'd like to think that we can model that and be that and do that for our world today.